Wow. Welcome all of you as we start the new year, and we will start, as we always do, with a prayer of and blessing of convocation from Chaplain Ganong.
Let us come together in a moment of prayer. Let us pray. Gracious and unnameable one, we gather in this sacred space, place we call morning meeting, as people from various religious traditions and no religious background at all. Some of us consider ourselves spiritual, while others choose to see our lives through another lens. We gather as a diverse community of students, faculty, and staff, diverse not simply because of race, ethnicity, culture, religion, class, nationality, sexual orientation, but because of the ideas and the beliefs we bring to the Taft community. Help us as we begin this year together to listen deeply to one another, so that we allow ourselves room to be enriched and fed by others whose place of origin and way of seeing and experiencing the world is very different from our own. We pray that a robust exchange of ideas will take place throughout the coming year in our classrooms and around campus, and that we will grant those who think differently than we do the generous space to disagree and even challenge us. But in our moments of vigorous disagreement, let us remain mindful that we share a common humanity on the only planet we know for sure supports life in this vast universe, a vibrant planet that is home to us all. And continuing in the prayerful words of the Irish poet John O'Donoghue, though your destination is not yet clear, you can trust the promise of this opening. Unfurl yourself into the grace of beginning. Awaken your spirit to adventure, hold nothing back, learn to find ease in risk. Soon you will be home in a new rhythm. For your soul senses the world that awaits you, the world that awaits you here at Taft. Amen.
Thank you, Bob. He and I did not compare notes, but you'll see in a few minutes, I'm going to speak about many of the same things. First of all, I want to just comment on the energy of this school and what it feels like to begin a year. I was just walking down the hall and to see everybody crowded in Lincoln Lobby, hugging and talking and greeting each other. The energy that we had yesterday, it was not a great day, obviously. It was raining and overcast, but it was so welcoming. That was Taft at its best, and so all of you who pitched in, and there were so many who helped as old boys and old girls and monitors and team members who were helping people move in. Absolutely fantastic. And so many parents commented on it. So many of them said, this is a really special place. And it is. And we are a better school now. We're a different school than we were just a few months ago because we have new people. And I would like the new faculty to stand up, and we should recognize that we just became a better faculty because we have some new faculty members here. So if they would stand up, we recognize them. Come on. Yeah. And I look, obviously you're going to come to know them well, and we should also recognize we're a better school and a different school because we've got a bunch of new students. If you're new, stand up, and I want to recognize you and welcome you all to Taft. Come on, new students, all stand up. Period. Yeah. Now, before I make some remarks, I want to talk briefly about what we are doing here and what school meeting means and what it involves. The tradition of gathering here is as old as the school and as old as this building. In the old days, it was called Vespers, and so 4 or 5 days a week before sit-down dinner, the entire boarding school would gather in here at 6:10, and there would be a talk, a presentation, a speech, a concert, or what have you, before sit-down dinner. And about 20 years ago, we put a committee together and ended up deciding that, well, Vespers was a beautiful tradition, and Vespers means a time of evening reflection. Well, that was a beautiful tradition. A couple things we wanted to change. One was the end of the day felt rushed. We were all very busy, and students would rush from practice to basically barely have time to shower and get in here. And so we wanted to kind of slow the pace of life down at the end of the day. And the second thing was that while day students, of course, were welcome, they generally didn't come to to Vespers. And so you had the situation where there might have been a great outside speaker, and the next day in class, a teacher would talk about it, or there'd be a buzz about it in the dining room, and not everyone could hear it. So we moved from Vespers in the evening to school meeting during the day, and so it really truly is an entire school experience. It is different than assembly, and Ms. Leal and Mr. Trainer will talk about assembly, a time of announcements, and that tends to be a little bit more informal, fun. You should know school meeting has a certain set of protocols, if you will, and I just want to review those for you. Again, think of it as rooted in the history of Vespers, of time of quiet and reflection, contemplation, illumination. And so when you come in, please try to get here on time. I know it's hard, but leave class, the bell rings. Get here as quickly as you can. Leave your backpacks, books, food, anything like that. That absolutely stays outside. If you've brought your cell phone, your device with you, that should absolutely be shut off, put to sleep, or turned off, or left in a backpack outside. Find your seat quickly as you can, and then there'll be a key moment. We're all gathering in here. There's a nice energy, but when you hear the gong play, right? When you hear that gong, that means immediately we're quiet, right? So the minute you hear that gong, that's a signal that we are now coming together in a kind of reflective mood. Then there'll be a second gong about 10 seconds later, and that signals that the speaker will then get up on the stage and begin. You obviously listen respectfully and attentively. We work really hard to bring in great outside speakers. You also will hear from students and faculty members, and I think it's a really important part of what we do. If you are late, by the way, do not come down the aisles and find your seat. I think that's rude for someone speaking to see someone walk down. If you're late, find one of the deans in the back. Make sure that you talk to them about why you're late. Do that day. Don't do it right there. Don't come in the next day and say, I was there. Okay, and then the speaker gets done, we always applaud, and then we walk out from seniors first, followed by the upper mids and the mids. Okay, so keep that in mind, that it is different than assembly and it's a time of reflection. So let me offer my comments here, and my comments are, as I said, actually going to echo Chaplain Ganung's in a lot of ways. And I guess my title is on conversation and community, and as the faculty know, because I spoke with them about this, I'm really interested in the power of conversation, how I can become better at it, how you can develop the skills needed for it, how a school becomes a community through conversation. And to start the year, I am going to offer a challenge and a goal about how conversation can shape culture and shape the success of the school. This comes perhaps it's because I've been so dismayed by the quality of much of the national conversation coming from all corners of the political landscape. And because of that, I returned thinking, perhaps we individually and collectively might achieve a really different kind of discourse than the national one. But to be fair, it wasn't that it was just what I saw outside the walls. I thought that we could improve our own conversational abilities individually and institutionally. And that's a very Taft idea, by the way, that we can always get better, we can always improve. And so I returned convinced that conversation was at the very heart of our work here, and that developing the passion and the skills for it had to be a goal. I returned with the idea that I was going to say it explicitly. I was going to drop, if you will, or usher a goal for us. And it was this, and I say it explicitly, that each of us at some time, and hopefully often, will engage in a conversation that bettered us, others, and the school. So there it is, I've said it. That's a goal of mine this year, that we will all engage in conversations that better us, others, in the school. Now, conversation can be intellectual, spiritual, emotional communion. It's the verbal means by which we illuminate differences and we find common ground, we deepen understanding. You know this, you've been part of those conversations. You put your device away, a topic surfaces, you look someone in the eye, you speak, you listen, and then maybe some bond draws you together. Maybe a light falls on an issue and you see it in a way you never did. Maybe the horizon suddenly opens into ideas you've never contemplated. And by the way, this conversation, especially at a place like this, can be accidental and unscripted, and yet have powerful consequences. A few days ago, I was chatting with Bawa on the soccer field, and I asked about his summer. He had not returned to Ghana. He shared, and instead, he had spent the summer with the Bairds at their home near Chicago. A year ago, he did not even know who they were. Today, they're like a second family. How did that possibly happen, I wondered? He told me about his first day at school. He said, my first day, Carolyn, who graduated last year, Carolyn sought me out to introduce herself to me. She said, you're going to be rooming with my brother. I wanted to say hi. And Bawa said, it made me feel welcomed. Just that conversation. So imagine the mutual learning there. Imagine the horizons that opened. Imagine how much this conversation changed his and their lives just because someone who was caring and curious began a conversation. We are so blessed to live in the school, to learn here, all of us, students and faculty. Everything about the place creates conversation. The design of the campus brings us in perpetual contact with each other. The main hall and the pathways are like rivers where we flow shoulder to shoulder under the flags of nations that hang like leaves. We find ourselves pausing together on corners, eddied in small groups where the current slows. Our classes are small, and teachers construct them to draw you out, to ask you to speak, to demand that you listen and respond. Our traditions, school meetings, sit-down dinners, others, make it impossible not to engage with each other. The dormitories, common rooms, benches, they all pull us together, day and boarder, boy and girl, upper and lower school. And so this school is about conversations and how they create community, how community's built, how we enhance our understanding of each other, how we develop the skills of respectful debate and empathic listening, how we raise understanding of complicated ideas, how we encounter experiences beyond what we know in and out of the classroom. What if we elevated the art of conversation to a place that sadly we do not see in the national discourse? What if each of us committed to talking with and listening to others, especially with those with whom we appeared to have little in common? What if we consciously put devices away and locked in, alert, focused, uninterrupted, and fully present? What if every class was a conversation of different insights, even opposing views, and every idea was voiced and every idea was heard? What if the dining hall tables were crowded elbow to elbow, not just with all girls or all boys or all teammates or all juniors, but with wonderfully different students who had something new and different to say to each other? What if in June, every one of us could say, I was part of conversations, formal and informal, planned and unplanned, that bettered me, others, and the school? Now, wouldn't that be extraordinary? Can you imagine the energy of this school? The place would take off like a rocket. Now, what I'm describing, to be clear, is not tangential to our work. It is our work. This education here is in the ancient tradition of liberal arts. It dates to the Greeks and the Romans. It is a conversational model. It is an education that's aimed at creating citizens who can think clearly, who can communicate cogently, debate respectfully, collaborate fruitfully, and it's achieved through an open and ongoing dialogue. The founder of the school, Horace Taft, very much was shaped by this tradition, created this tradition anew in a small house in 1890. It was the education of the whole student. That was the mission then. It is the mission today. And it only comes with a free, open, robust, and informed exploration of ideas. It's through conversation. Wesleyan President Michael Roth, who's a brilliant guy and who's written much on liberal education, writes this. He writes that a liberal education forces us to encounter that which may be strange and which enlarges our horizon and perspective and develops the capacities for seeing possibilities and for relishing the world across borders we might otherwise not have dared to cross. Right? Borders we might otherwise not have dared cross. That's what happens when you find yourself talking with someone who's had an experience different than you. That's the liberating part of a liberal education. And we develop the skill and the courage to go places we once feared, and it's exciting. And that can happen, and it only will happen if to every class and every discussion and conversation, you bring a willingness to get in and stay in conversation, especially in ideas that are new and challenging. That's what Mr. Ganong was talking about. Your experience here will at times completely discomfort you as you wrestle with perspectives different than your own. It will unsettle you as you recognize that yours is not the only way to experience the world. It will challenge you as you find your own firmly held thinking shaken. You're going to glimpse new worlds. This is what Roth is getting at when he says a liberal education should, and I quote, continually confront us with perspicuous divergences that strengthen our ability to understand differences from various perspectives, even as we learn to understand commonalities. He is offering an affirmation of everything we do, and it's a call to each of you to dive deeply and openly and vulnerably and courageously into conversations in and out of class, perhaps to confront and respect new ideas that unsettle, provoke, illuminate, inspire, and elevate. He's describing a skill that is vital and one you can improve. So what does it mean for us here? Here's one thing I've thought a lot about. We need to recognize, and it is a fact, and to argue whether it's good or bad is irrelevant. It is a fact that we communicate a lot more with fingers to screen than a generation ago, even since 2008 when iPhones first became popular. So I think that we have to make a shared effort to reclaim conversation. This is something that every family talks about, parents talk about, I think about a lot. And that's why we don't walk the hall with headphones on. It's why we don't use phones in public. It's why this year your teachers, by the way, your teachers who want your attention and they want your focus and presence, they are going to ask that if you've brought a device to class that you put it aside. You're going to put it in a basket, you're going to put it on a hanger, you're going to put it on a shelf. That's why you might be the one who says, look, let's listen to each other. Let's put our devices away. I am like a favorite author of mine, MIT professor Sherry Turkle, brilliant writer, who says, I am not anti-technology, I am pro-conversation. So this is something I think we have to think consciously about. I think second, we have to realize how our campus and our history beautifully encourages conversation. We should take advantage of these places and traditions. Perhaps no place is more important or has more potential for vibrant conversation and profound learning, expanding of horizons, broadening inclusion, advancing understanding. No place more than the dining halls. I wish I could shuffle the entire student body like cards and then deal you randomly around the tables. Imagine the conversations that would happen. Of course, that's what a sit-down dinner is. You are all so bright and interesting. You bring such unique perspectives. You have so much to offer and learn from each other. And yet, to be clear, and I'll say this comfortably, I too often walk in and I see that potential squandered, with friends only eating with the same friends group, or a table of only boys or only girls, or of just teammates or students from the same dorm, or students of shared background. And by the way, we've all done that. To seek out familiarity is perfectly human, and I am hardly judging here. But I would say that if this is the norm, if this is the default, it means that you're missing something. You're missing a great opportunity, and you're failing to take advantage of a community that we've worked very, very hard to create. Now, it's not easy to shake that habit, but it's not impossible. And if my goal is that we each have conversations that better ourselves, others in the school, I see the dining hall as a key place. And I look for leaders in every class who see the opportunity, who pull up a chair to sit or pull out a chair to invite. And then you start talking about Taft life, about a meeting speaker, about a current event. And when you leave, you think, I'm a better person for that. And what's cool is you probably made someone else feel that. And to be clear, these spaces are for all of us. I don't accept the idea, for instance, that Prentice is a place for seniors only. We didn't work really hard with leading architects and spend millions of dollars to create a space that's segregated or divided or wasn't available or welcome to all. I recognize, by the way, it's an unwritten tradition. There's no bad design or intention here. But I want to undo it today. I need your leadership, seniors especially, but everybody in doing so. And if we're all going to together have conversations that better us in the school, we need to use dining spaces even better, to mix and to welcome and to risk and learn. Now, most of all, we need to enter conversations around challenging and complex ideas in and out of the classroom with a combination of confidence and humility and eagerness to listen as well as to speak, genuinely curious about others, aware that your view is not the only one, willing to accept in turn that you may be challenged and be confronted by new ideas. No one can promise that you won't have people disagree with you. No one can promise you won't encounter a perspective that unsettles you. What I hope is we can promise to ourselves as a community that we will stay in conversations, that we'll listen and respect, and we'll debate with rigor and curiosity, we'll assume the best in everybody, and we'll elevate our understanding of each other. You might be tempted, as I pull this together, to conclude that there's some sort of feel-good, summer campy kumbaya vision here. It is not. To be fair, it is idealistic. It is aspirational. It is about getting better. But what I'm describing is also intensely practical. A few nights ago, I referenced to the dorm moms an important book entitled 21st Century Skills by Bernie Trilling and Charles Fadel. What these two authors did is they went out and interviewed all kinds of successful men and women, leaders in all kinds of professions, CEOs, presidents, directors, I mean, really big-time international leaders. And they asked, what skills do you think are necessary for success today? And what they heard won't surprise you. Trilling and Fatal heard over and over again that success required people, and I quote, to demonstrate the ability to work effectively and respectfully with diverse teams. Success required people who, and again I quote, exercise flexibility and willingness to be helpful in making compromises to accomplish a goal. Success required people, and I quote, who could assume shared responsibility for collaborative work and valued the individual contributions by every team member. And here's how they pull it together. These skills, so they have identified from the best leaders in the world what skills are needed. That is, what we are hoping that you will gain. What they did when they pulled it together was this simple phrase. These skills are best learned socially by directly communicating and collaborating with others. And what they are describing and what I am urging is that you see your days here as a rich opportunity to engage and converse with students and faculty of different backgrounds and perspectives, to encounter ideas that are new, to find common ground, to deepen understanding and solve problems. This is not just a moral imperative, though I do argue there's a moral one. What I'm describing is a set of skills that will ultimately separate those who can lead and those who never will. You want to limit your opportunities? Not get the job you want? See your career stagnate, minimize your influence on the world, then just avoid conversation with people different than you. You want to lead in college and beyond, connect with others, better the world, serve, then learn how to have a conversation, listen to others, explain your ideas, be open to difference, include voices, and collaborate creatively. That is a skill, and you can start it here. To miss the opportunity by closing your mind to new ideas, by living uncurious about others, by fearing that which you do not know would be profoundly sad. Think, on the other hand, what you might experience and what we might be if everyone shared that goal, that we engaged in conversation that bettered us, others, and the school. Think how you might walk through Centennial Arch, diploma in hand, somehow changed and better, able to lead in ways that are so desperately needed, and leaving your school even stronger. So it's with that spirit of conversation and welcome that I welcome all of you. I cannot wait to get the year started. I love having the campus filled again. New students in particular, look forward to getting to know you. Let's have a great start to the year. And again, we exit by, seniors will go first. And yes, you're supposed to applaud too. Thank you. Yeah.